Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the RuneQuest rules by Chaosium Incorporated. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. Strong language, mature scenes, and rune magics are on the way. As this is our Glorantha, we will remind listeners that it may vary from the one you already know and love. And now, on to the show. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways podcast. I return to you as your storyteller Mike. We are back with our RuneQuest game, and tonight we have a very special rite of passage for two of our RuneQuest team. And so, before we do introductions at the top of the show, I'd like to thank you for listening and especially supporting us on Patreon. If you've not had a chance to check out what we offer on Patreon, you can at patreon.com/theoldwayspodcast. Jump over to YouTube and subscribe there and keep up with all of our live events, special videos, and anything else we might get up to. So for now, we'll begin with introductions. To my right.
This is Vargast, son of Gordanger of Twice Blessed, and today I become a man.
Indeed you do. And to Vargast, right?
Hi, this is James. I'm playing Fin, or Finn to his friends, who apparently also is told that he's going to become a man today. We'll see.
No, for clarity's purposes, Finn, no one's told you anything.
Oh, fantastic. No one usually does.
Shouldn't it be fantastic? Anyway.
Fantastic.
So we are going to raise the curtain, or part the veil, as sometimes I like to say, on or around Wednesday in Stasis Week during sea season. So for those of you who recently listened to our episode opener for the marriage, this event takes place about a week or so after that. It's evening for both of you. Both of you live in very different places. Finn, you live in a stead far away from the center, the ring, where Vargas does. But equally, both of you are beset upon by a strange and terrifying sight. This evening, in the middle of the night, the door to your longhouse opens, the curtains part where you slumber at, and many shadowy forms seize you by the hands. Rough hands, strong ones. When you cry out, they latch their limbs and hands around your mouth. Vargas, they pick you up and haul you out of the longhouse. You see your mother, and then those you would call mother, grandmothers, younger children, all aghast as these masked forms descend upon you. You are brought out into a howling gale. Sea season, especially in the Vale, the rains can come very hard and very fast. And when they do, they coat everything. Rain lashes your faces. Lightning bolts arc through the sky and give you moments of illumination. You see monstrous figures assembled in that storm. Telmori wolfmen, members of the undead, goat-headed brew. And after a moment, you realize each of you are not alone. You're forced to march, hands and feet bound, through this gale. Every time you threaten to tip over, another one of these masked faces, these monstrous brew, push you back into line. They prevent any attempt from you pushing your way out or running for freedom. You move in this manner for what seems like hours. You trip over tree roots and stones. Boys cry out. They ask for help. They plead with these men to stop. But there is no mercy. And eventually, Vargast, your blindfold is taken off. And in that lightning flash that comes just at the moment when the blindfold comes off, you see scores of figures now around you. The woods here, deep, old. You stand on the edge of an open pit. Fin, you can feel the lack of balance here. Your feet bound tight. And before you can react to it, you watch as one of these monstrous brew pushes a youth into this pit. And then that swift movement against your back comes, and you fall forward. I'm going to allow each of you a jump roll in an attempt to land safely.
I have a 12 under 53 for my jump.
And that is 54 over 44.
Okay. So Fin, you manage to land, tuck, and roll. And for you, Vargast, you take 2 points of hit point damage. Since you're not wearing any armor, it just goes to your all over hit points. Or if you'd like, I can roll to see where you land.
Yeah, let's try that.
Because we do have the wonderful hit location dice. Okay, yeah, you land a little off balance on your left leg, and you feel a twinge in that muscle. But this, of course, is only the beginning of the horrors. After you land in that cold, ice cold muck, you roll over just in time to see this group of monstrous figures close something over the pit.
Ugh. Well, it's about time they give us at least something to keep the rain off of us, right? I mean, that's totally why they did that.
Yes, I'm quite certain that's why.
Finn wipes the coating of mud off of his face. Clay, I don't mind. Mud? Ugh.
You hear a couple other voices. What were those things?
Beasts of Chaos?
Brew?
Maybe, you're a fourth voice say. My father's said a few things about them before, and if we're in one of their pits, it's going to be a dark day.
Then we need to get out, don't we?
You hear a fifth voice. Yes, we're going to need to get out. Seems strong, but no older than any of you here.
How far up is the top of the pit?
It's 3 meters.
Well, we can give somebody a boost. See if we can push the cover off.
I can climb like a squirrel, but I don't think I'm going to be strong enough to move the cover. Perhaps two of us on the bottom to hoist someone up, give them more leverage, and give them more of a ability to at least see what's going on. Although I fear anyone who pokes their head up there. You don't think that they've just jumped us in a pit, left unguarded?
It doesn't sound like it. You hear one of the voices say.
So I think poking our head up right now is probably not the best of ideas.
I'm not going to stay here and be some sort of food for these things. That's the fourth voice.
Is there anything else in the pit?
Muck. Probably things you don't want to think about that you're stepping on. Very, very squishy things. There's a smell here, too. It smells very earthy. You hear a chant pick up above you. You hear low, resonant voices in a distinctive chant start.
If I can get you up there, maybe somebody can look and see what's going on. Maybe there's a way to sneak out.
Maybe, yes. The first voice you encounter comes over.
Well, I don't weigh much if you want to hoist me up, and I'm fairly quick.
All right. Ready?
There's no roll required. You're able to hoist Finn up. He's definitely small enough. You press on the roof of this cover, whether it's brass or perhaps maybe it's something else. It's definitely heavy, but you press on it. And you are able to push it slightly aside. You can probably poke your head through now.
Take a glance out or peer out and see if it looks like anyone is immediately regarding the area because I've moved it.
It's dark except for the lightning and a sort of strange green flame that exists nearby. You get just flickers of images. You don't see anybody nearby.
All right, well, poke my head out a little more then and really take a look.
You feel it. You wish you didn't, but you feel it. You feel a heavy hand land on the back of your head and grab hard and pull. And you get pulled out and through by something that feels stronger than any other presence you've felt before. And it happens whip fast, Vargast.
I would say Finn probably has time for almost just an eep.
You come face to face with an enormous goat head. This thing is probably 2 feet wide, big, baleful green eyes. And it grabs you with its right hand to take pressure off of your head for whatever reason, and then marches you over to another pit and throws you in. The first voice that you encounter in that pit, Vargast, that first voice, you can see him climb up the side of this muddy wall. He grabs onto whatever roots he can. He's not nearly your size, but he makes a break for it. And you watch him get snatched immediately afterwards.
Damn it.
It isn't more than, say, 20 or so seconds before the lid gets put back on correct. And now, the two of you are very much more alone. It goes quiet in the mud pits for several hours, to the point that you're not certain, Vargast, if anyone else is here with you. You don't even hear them breathe. It's strange. For you, Finn, your empty pit is disconcerting.
Is Finn alone in the pit?
It sure sounds like it.
But they didn't march me that far away, right?
No, I mean, you don't remember counting the steps, but it can't be more than 10 or 12 feet.
Okay. Finn, after a while, does what he usually does when he can't fish to pass the time. He sings tunelessly or an old, probably something fairly maudlin at the moment, just because, it's hard to keep his mind off of not being in a dark, muddy pit right at the moment.
Finn, what are your passions?
I have love of family, love of clan, and loyalty to Colomar.
Loyalty to the Colomar tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And Vargast, yours?
I have loyalty to Sartar, loyalty to Colomir, loyalty to the Haraborn, and love of family.
So, Finn, I'm going to start with you. You have relatives who have passed along. Grandparent. That grandparent that passed, that you revered. Tell me about them.
Her name was Marissa. She was Marissa the farmer, and she actually took that as her title on the battlefield in her fight in the Battle of Grizzly Peak. And she was in one of the foot battalions, saw some very grisly combat and did not flinch even for a moment, and unfortunately met her end trying to defend the Colomar people, but still, as all people do, met her end. Inspired a whole generation, including Finn, with her bravery.
You hear something finally on the other side of the pit. You hear a uneven movement sound.
Who's there?
The pit turns biting cold. You know if you had light, you would be able to see your breath.
Warmth.
A voice hisses in the background.
Warmth.
I have very little to give, friend.
Flesh.
and even less of that than I'm willing to spare.
Something brushes your skin.
Finn instinctively jerks away with another yelp. This one probably louder than the singing and most likely loud enough for the other pit to hear.
Give me your body to wear.
I don't think so.
I lost mine. I gave you life. You are obligated to me.
What? He backs away from the direction of the voice. Who are you? Announce yourself.
You see the tiniest pinprick of green light start across from you, about 6 or so feet, head level. It falls like a falling star to the ground, effortless, simple. And when it hits that caked, icy mud, it sparkles, it blooms like a smoke from a campfire. A figure emerges from this gloom, ragged, naked. It's a corpse. Its empty eye sockets dance with a black light only the underworld would know. It teeters towards you. Its open maw half filled with teeth.
Warmth. Give me your warmth.
Finn continues to circle away from it. No, give me your name.
Its head cracks on the spinal column it's attached to.
You know me.
Finn kind of squints in the dim green light.
I gave birth to your father from between these legs.
It gestures to the empty pelvis.
Finn does his best to look away from where the gesture... You would claim to be my grandmother?
I am your grandmother.
Well, then, I would think as my grandmother, you would want to sit and talk a while. We've never met. Wouldn't you want to sit and talk to your grandson? Finn very, very slowly and very carefully sits down on the ground. He pats the earth in front of him. At least do me that if I am to have my warmth and flesh taken from me.
Okay, Finn, make me a bargain roll. This is, of course, resisted.
That is a 9 under 15.
Okay. Success on your end. Let's see how this spirit does. Okay. The spirit moves forward. It comes to within just beyond arm's reach of you. And it rather gracefully for a dead being falls into a cross-legged position.
Finn is doing his best to keep his gorge down and his shit together. So, my father, he speaks of you very fondly. And that you fought for our freedom?
I did.
We're still fighting for it.
Lunars will never stop.
No, not unless we stop them. That's true. Finn kind of stops and looks at, how are you? He genuinely asks her how she's this seems very unpleasant for you, and I'm sorry. Someone as honored as you deserves a better place, I think.
I have seen glory. I have seen many things. The battle was something to behold. Kenstrel, king of the Colomar, was there. Foul, lunar magics took him. But the Haraborn still live.
Of course. Strong and proud.
This is our Vale. Do not forget that.
Never. I'm proud of our home. Finn kind of half smile. I keep all of my things here.
You have a enlightening conversation with your grandmother. It affirms some of the stories that your father told of her. How she was both wise and quick-witted, a woman not to be trifled with. but one who always knew the value of a good joke.
Finn attempts his best to bring her warmth through laughter and memory. Tells her about how her son has grown up and what kind of a father he is. And, a bit about my childhood if she's curious.
Her curiosity is probably not. She's more conveying things to you than you are to her.
Right.
But there is a reasonable back and forth between the two of you at that time. You do gain something from her, and that is a sliver of her will. You feel yourself empowered having met this ancestor spirit. And so I'm going to raise your POW by 1 point.
Nice.
I'm either going to give you an experience checkmark in your death rune, or you may take an experience checkmark in love, family, or homeland lore. Your choice.
You know what? I'm going to go with love, family.
Okay, check the box.
All right.
All right, Vargast, it's your turn. The pit for you is filled with a lot of waiting, seemingly waiting for nothing. Hours pass by and no other voices come to take the place of the ones who were. In that pitch black darkness, though, it's not the voices that you look for. It's really the feeling, that extra sensory perception that your father has tried to train into you to be aware at all times. Many of the young lessons you had in arms were done with the aid of a blindfold, because your father told you that your eyes someday would lie to you. And as a rune lord, you listened. And even now you can feel a pair of eyes in the dark on you, never leaving.
What is it you watch me so?
You hear your voice bounce back at you a little. Slowly, you begin to see a pair of yellow eyes in the dark. They're set a little strangely.
Who are you, stranger?
Somehow, you begin to make out more a lean, angular face that exists behind those eyes. A long, narrow nose, high cheekbones. There is a sharpness in these features, something different. From the crouched position, it stands. You see a boy dressed in rags, furs, his body elaborately tattooed. You recognize this boy, not for who he is, but what he is. He is a wolf brother. He is a Telmori.
How did you come to be here?
I was hunting in the high peaks. His voice echoes out. I do not know how I got here. I do not even know where this is. I admit, I am confused. Who are you?
I am Vargast, son of Gordangar.
Gordangar, the chieftain's son.
Indeed.
Your father's name is known among the mountains and among my people.
We need to find a way out of here.
He looks around the space, and that's when you see something a little strange. When his body moves, that light that your eyes have drawn on to see him moves with him, with just a half moment of trailing light. Why is it so cold?
Is it unseasonably cold?
It is cold, but not unseasonably cold. If he is a Telmori, he would be used to the temperature. I mean, he is dressed.
Why would you be cold? Just be used to this kind of weather.
He turns back towards you and you see that secondary image. He turns his head and then that same light that encompasses him turns it to. I do not know. I'm not sure why I am cold.
Why does that light follow you?
He looks at himself. What light do you speak of? I see no light.
The green light.
He turns around. There is no green light here. What light do you mean?
I can see it plain as day.
He seems to furrow his brow. I was hunting in the peaks. The last thing I remember was losing my balance. I went for the rocks. I assumed I must have ended up here, wherever this is.
I approach closer.
He stays reasonably where he's at. He doesn't recoil, but he does turn to fully face you.
Do I see anything else interesting about him? I mean, different, unusual?
Up close, he's a little transparent. He reminds you of a spirit your uncle might call. He looks at you.
I have bad news for you, boy. I don't think you made it from that fall.
What do you mean?
I believe you may have entered over in the spirit world.
He looks shocked. No. No, my family needs to be home. No, that can't have happened. I must get out of here.
What do I know about spirits?
So most spirits have a purpose. They could be tied to an element. They could be tied to an object. They could be anywhere, anything. I mean, the Haraborn have their own shamanic tradition, right? So that is part of it. You would be at least familiar with the fact that you have your own clan whiter, the stag, and there are spirits in the Vale. Generally speaking, as a Haraborn of the Vale, provided you are reasonable and decent and respectful of the spirits, they don't usually bother you. Some can be very helpful. It's known that many of the local Ronaldan priests do tend to call on spirits to do all sorts of things. But that's usually left up to priestesses because they know what they're doing.
Okay. Can I get close enough to reach out to touch the spirit?
Are you going to reach out for him?
Yeah.
Do you feel like Vargas is going to grab him, or you're just going to try to touch him?
I'm going to try to touch him.
Okay. He moves a little and says, "Make an accord with me. Help me out of this pit. I know our peoples are not friendly, but I cannot be left here to die in this pit.
If I lift you up, do you think you can run from him?
I may be able to, yes."
Then I will do so.
He very gingerly allows you to pick him up. He's just about as tall as Finn. When he gets near the opening, which is still sealed, he somehow reaches his fingers underneath the lid and he squishes his form into the mud and disappears.
Like, disappear? Or,
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to try to climb up after him.
Okay. You try to climb the side walls of this slick pit. You can get probably 3/4 of the way up. You just, after several attempts, can never actually get all the way up.
All right, then I'll give up, I guess.
For the moment, both of you hear a loud cracking sound, and the cover of these pits is pulled back. You see that it's night still. You hear noises above, but with the covers off, each of you, should you so choose, are able to work your way out finally. Finn, your grandmother is long gone at this point.
Yeah, Finn has probably spent a long time just sitting in the dark where he was, thinking about the dark pit doesn't really seem quite as terrifying anymore now that one of the scariest things Finn could have thought of happened. So now, I mean, what more terrors could the pit hold?
You see 3 other boys join you around this pit area. Their voices are seemingly familiar. They introduce themselves as Aventarl and Ofen.
Greetings, well met. I'm Garifin of Philbase, son of Kolakar.
Oh, the potter.
Indeed.
I am Vargast, son of Gordanger.
Hear Ofen say, yes, everyone is aware of who you are. It's all a bit dizzying, really. You're still around the same clearing from before. It's the middle of the night. The storm is still raging. Flashes of blue and purple adorn the heavens. But all the men and all of the other things vanished. The pits seem to have been dug around the circumference of this clearing. They're all empty, save one. The lid to that pit is still closed. The sounds coming from within it are very disturbing. There is movement down there. There's sounds of mud, wet mud. And there's also smacking sounds. Moaning. Ofen looks at you and says, Daristan must still be trapped. And with a alertness, which very few of you have, Ofen runs towards the pit. Help me roll the lid back.
I'll follow and help him.
The four of you dig into that lid and rip it off. It reveals something horrific. Daristan is curled up in a fetal position, swatting blindly at the air to and fro. He's making these incoherent shrieking sounds. He's covered in mud, sweat, other unidentifiable fluids. The stench of this pit is hideous. He's going to have to be helped out. Ofen is the first one in the pit. He reaches for Doristan and gets swatted. The boy shrieks. He flails. If you didn't know it any better, Vargas, it'd sound like those shrieks and squeals were of a pig being slaughtered. So what I'll ask you all to do are to make strength times 5 tests. And this is in effect to pick up Daristan and get him out of this pit.
I got 65 under, I guess it'd be 85.
Mm-hmm.
27 under 65.
Okay. Ofen makes his roll. The three of you, even as Daristan fights, you pull him out of this pit. He doesn't speak, but when he gets to level ground, the wind shifts. Fin, you smell wood smoke in the air. Vargas, through the trees not far, you see a firelight, dim orange.
We'll see if we can get him ears warmed up.
The boys collectively agree. They help haul him into the forest where this fire is. As you approach this fire, you find a man sitting near the fire. His back is to you. He's naked, but his body, his back especially, is covered in an array of tattoos. But the tattoos aren't identifiable by anything you would recognize. You don't see a clan or a tribe symbol. There's no sign of a wife, child, battles. But clearly the man is powerfully built. Broad shoulders, strong hands just by the look of it. He has a basket of bread nearby. He's turning a small wild boar on a spit. And the smell of that boar it certainly arouses your hunger. You have not eaten in hours.
Excuse me, traveler?
He stands up and turns around. His hair is fairly closely cut. He has a beard, but his look is familiar somehow. If either of you have homeland lore, you can roll that.
39 under 40.
Okay.
Finn's doing thinking fingers to something.
31 under 35.
He says, I am Hengal, son of Ingot. Who are you, friend or foe? For your homeland lore, Vingot was the son of Orlanth and the founder of their people. Before King Hort came during the Great Darkness, people were called Vingotlings rather than Hortlings. And so when you do the mental math, this man is telling you that he's Orlanth's grandson.
Friend, and especially on a night like this.
You are welcome to join the fire. I'm happy to share my food and drink with you.
Finn chuckles and gestures to Vargast as he helps the unwell friend over to the fire.
Yes, our companion is not doing well. The fire would do well for its recovery.
Just place him there. He looks at you for just a half a moment, Vargas, and says, your leg, I can help you there.
I would appreciate that. I twisted it when I was thrown in the pit.
He steps over and kneels just for a moment and raises a hand, and a beautiful starlight appears at his hand, just around his fingertips. And you feel your muscles soothe and ease back into proper position. Heals you of all your hit point damage. Tell me what happened.
Well, I was taken from our longhouse by men in masks. Creatures, and they took me and the others, and we tossed us into pits, left us there for hours, and then disappeared.
And you?
Me, I was just out for a nice evening constitutional and decided that pit seemed a good place to sleep. Finn stands up and kind of massages his back a little as he's been curled up in the bottom of a pit for hours now.
He gives you an absolute deadpan stare.
My story is very similar to Vargast's, only smaller because it's me.
It sounds like my grandfather's initiation. Have you heard the tale? The initiation of Orlanth?
I have not heard it in a way that I'm sure you would tell it.
But you love stories.
With every fiber of my being and every bone in my body.
Now, let me tell you this one. Vargas, he passes you a flagon.
I take a swig, pass it along.
It's definitely enough to put hair on your chest.
Well, I drink it with my mouth instead of my chest, so I get a beard.
When Umath yet lived and his sons were but boys, the Lord of the Middle Air was drawn away to deal with other matters, left his boys alone. In his absence, Umath's brothers, Lordril Firelord, Magasta Sea King, Dehora, Keeper of Darkness, Gnurt, Earthlord, Cult the Renewer, and others came upon the sons of Umath alone in the woods and seized them. These giants bore Umath a grudge and wished to punish him by destroying his children. So they separated the brothers and put each one into a different pit. Phaedrus they put into the deep well. Urox they put into the beast pens. Humak into the fighting pit. And Orlanth they put into the cell of strange gods. The other brother, the one whose name we no longer mention, was put into the sex pit. This was a terrible crime, because there are things that are not good for children to experience. In doing this, the seeds for the return of the pre-dark tribe were planted. But that is another story. Phaedrus, Urox, Humak, and Orlanth all overcame challenges of their pits, but the other brothers succumbed. The brothers tried to save him. They formed the brothers' ring and chanted and prayed to heal him, but this could not be done. Nevertheless, they sought out their uncles in their halls, where they were feasting to celebrate their triumph over Umam. When they saw the boys, however, they perceived the boys were no longer boys. So the giants gave honor to the sons of Umath accordingly, and recognized them henceforth as gods and men. He takes a swig of the enormous flagon and rips off a piece of bread. The sons of Umath went into those pits as boys and emerged as men. But the other brother was broken. This was the sin that broke the world. For you, however, youth and innocence are over. You must now walk the path that Hort, your father, walked. Before you leave with me, you must know what Hort knew. You must hear what I told him when he came to me. He stares deep into the flames. You came here in the dark and the storm because you saw a light. The light. You see him turn his face upwards, and the clouds break directly overhead to show you flickering stars. Each of those small, flickering lights fights the dark. They fight eternally, never surrendering. They are beacons, campfires in the night. Now you must be as one of them. When I was born, the third mother gave me a star for a heart. 2 wives my father had, summer and winter, but she was the third. She is the unseen midwife pregnant at every birth, for she is the birth and the mother of all men. He reaches down and very respectfully and reverently pats the ground. You emerged from your mothers as boys. Tonight you emerged from our mother as men. He looks up at you, Vargast. He seems almost larger than he was before. In my youth, I was poisoned. It made me grow as large as a house. I feared being a burden to my kin. And so I fled to shine alone in the dark. Hort found me as you have tonight. The world was broken then. Orlanth was gone, Arnalda slept. The sun hid its face in hell. As it was for you in the pits, men could not always tell the living from the dead. The darkness threatened to consume everything. So I showed Hort my light, so that he could make my light his own star heart, to shine in the dark of night. And he took my light and gave it to all men who thereafter bore his name. Do you see, Hortlings? Hort, the Hardstag, Hort of the Deerfolk. To be Hortlings, you must be star hearts, lights in the darkness. Every day of your lives, you must do as Orlanth did and fight chaos with every breath. He takes a stick from the ground here and pokes the fire, puts another log on. Every broken fence you mend, you drive chaos back. Every crop you plant and harvest to feed your kin, you spit in the devil's face. Every law you obey, you defy the pre-dark. Every child you sire and raise, you save the world from ending. It isn't just the gods, you see. It isn't just the demigods or great heroes. It is every good man who shines his light in the dark. Everyone saves the world. He sits back and flips the wild boar again. Each one of us must fight chaos alone. But we are never alone in the fight against chaos. This is the secret Hort went to the edge of the world to understand. This is not required of you, however. All you need do now is go back to your people this night and carry my words with you. Spend your lives being those lights in the dark. Okay, so this is how the point that I spoke about before, where I remind you, the player, that we can end this right now, or you can choose to go on.
Should we continue on then?
Yeah.
After he stokes the fire a bit more, you see him cut some bread, tears it a bit into hunks, and he presses it into Aventarl and Ophin's hands. And he says, should you not wish to press on, I can give each of you something to eat, with the understanding that you will help this boy back to the home. Ophin is the first to stand up and say, I'm happy to take him home, Hangal, son of Vingat, in service to you and to act as a light for my people. He nods. Daristan must be cared for. He will need to have a proper look over by the priestesses there. He will need time to heal. The two of them, with Daristan in tow, leave the campfire. They disappear into the night, and after a few moments, you don't see them anymore. There are always some who go ahead. There are always some who need to. Whatever their path might be, some choose to do so, but be cautioned. Hort's path to the edge of the world is not for all men. You turn your face away from the world and you walk into chaos. The further you go, the deeper into the enemy's lands you walk. There is much to learn. Oh yes, much. And the people will always need defenders who have faced and know the enemy. But the danger to body and spirit is great. Be sure.
If I am to take my father's role, I must know.
Finn is turning the boar on the spit. Someone's going to need to keep Vargast company, and I'm not content with just going back in chaos, truth be told. Chaos has never really scared me that much.
It will.
And I'll treasure the experience.
You will walk first to the battle that saved the world. At the I Fought We Won, you will learn, truly learn, the secret of the Star Heart. Here you again have the choice to come back. For if you go on, you will come to face the devil. An encounter few have remained unscathed. Should you survive the Lord of the Predark, you may turn back again, for all that lies beyond is the edge of the world and the void. There is no coming back from that unchanged.
A story is only worth telling if you get to the end.
He stands up. On the other side of the campfire, he puts together several packages. One is a food pack, provisions, dried meat, bread, a water skin for each of you. And then whatever your highest percentage weapon he has available. He uncovers a few clay pots at the edge of this clearing and opens them. You see that there is a woad in them. A woad, it can be used to rub on yourself.
Like the blue body paint.
Yeah, these are yellow and blue.
All right.
He helps you both paint what you need to protect yourself. At the clearing's edge, he points ahead. The path is a simple one. Walk. Walk as Hort did, until the darkness has consumed everything. But listen and see. He steps back.
Well, Vargast, shall we?
Let us.
You walk forward.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
It's a simple walk. At least it seems like that. You walk away from the firelight and into the dark. But this darkness has more weight than you have ever felt. There's a density to it, almost like a fog. The further and further you walk, the more light fades. And the more a bitter, howling darkness falls over you. Decay, the smell of it hangs in the frozen air here. Enough to gag you. Howls and the clanging of swords echo all around, as if they're muffled by the fog. Screams rise from every direction, but are suddenly cut short. And as you press on, these screams begin to form a constant and undulating cry. Scores of them, hundreds perhaps. It feels as if 1,000 voices raise and lower in agony, horror, perhaps madness. The sound pours in a constant stream from all around you. At the same time, it becomes harder and harder to see. The forest withers to ash until there is nothing left but a barren shadow plain covered in a thick dust. It's difficult to see even a few meters in front of you. Fin, you come upon a weeping woman with an infant in her hands. Even in the darkness, you make out that she has a ghastly pallor. Her flesh hangs off her body, rotting. The baby is the same, not sucking but gnawing at the bloodless and tattered flesh of her breast. "You will not stop crying," she says. "He is so hungry."
"Though it looks you feed him well." Carefully circumnavigate the situation. Yeah, give them a wide berth.
Vargast, you come upon a woman impaled on a spike. "Where is my wife?" This young warrior calls out. "Where is Alana?" The body jerks and shivers and slumps. You both come across a vision of a farmer trying to till this lifeless soil with a plow. An emaciated man, rib bones, easily seen, naked and white. He's riddled with maggots. The oxen that the plow is attached to is equally lifeless. More bones than flesh. Do you keep going?
Yes.
Finn throws a wave out to the farmer as if they were walking back to the village. Hey, the farmer still deserves a wave. It's not his fault that he's covered in maggots.
As you continue, the darkness grows somehow. You become increasingly aware of pale figures moving just beyond the edge of your vision. They're flashes. They're flashes of white at first, but then another and another. Your eyes are drawn to pinpoints of green light that float just beyond the edge of your vision. They bob up and down, always in matched pairs. And Finn, you realize what that is.
I've seen those before just recently. Or something akin to it. Are those pairs of eyes?
Pale figures begin stepping in from the edges of your perceptions. Those bobbing green lights set directly into the skull of the dead who slowly shamble towards you. Hundreds, thousands beyond them.
Vargast, do you see this?
Yes. An army of the dead.
That is what it looks like. If I were pressed to describe one.
They get closer.
Thoughts, Vargast?
We must press on. Push our way through.
All right, through it is.
You press on. You begin pushing through, getting around, moving between, trying to continue your forward movement. The two of you become like a babbling brook, like a simple spring breeze. You become like air and moving water, hard to pin down in one place. You lose sight of one another for a moment and then recapture it. And then you're forced to move apart again. Finn, you see not far from here a figure moving through this dead army. Matted black fur, goat head, 3 distinctive eyes, 2 on the left, 1 on the right. Vargast, for you, you see an abomination. Part elk, a massive physical specimen, but hairless, with milky pink flesh, covered in what looks like slick running pus. For the moment, the 2 of you cannot perceive one another. And so, we're going to have some RuneQuest combat. As our inaugural RuneQuest combat on the Old Ways podcast 6 seasons in Sartar campaign, we're going to get into strike ranks. Combat in general in RuneQuest is run a couple of different ways. So in general, what we do is we go through a process. One of the processes in RuneQuest combat is to declare your intent. So the melee round is broken into phases, 4 phases, right? So statement of intent. The players, you and me, the game master, declare the intentions of all the participants in the melee round. These intentions do not need to be precise. So what's clear here is that you're going to kind of sort of say, this is what I'm thinking about doing, right? Enough needs to be said that way everybody in the combat understands what the intentions of those characters are. So I will let you know that the intention of each of your opponents is to either kill, burn, or destroy the person in front of them. Brew are very simple people. They really have one thing that they want to do. A good reminder to all participants, RuneQuest combat can be fairly deadly. Now, that covering that you were given, the woad, gives you 3 points of armor on your entire body. That is something to remember. So what strength rank weapon are you going to be using, Vargast?
So I use my two-handed spear.
Okay, what is the strike rank of your two-handed spear? So the strike rank is 0.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's going to go off on your...
So, 1.
Yep, because you're biggin. You're a biggin?
I'm a biggin.
You are. James, what is Finn's weapon of choice?
Finn uses a sling, and he's not really much one for melee weapons. He's got a 25 and broadsword, but that's
sure.
Like,
okay. You certainly can use a sling.
Yep.
So what is the strike rank dex strike rank of your sling?
My dex is a 16. And my dex strike rank is 1.
Right. Okay. You two are going to go first before these brew go. So between the 2 of you, who has a higher dex?
16.
That's you.
That's you.
Okay. Yep.
So yeah, you are being beset upon by death itself in the form of a brew. This could possibly be the one you saw at the pit that dragged you out by the head.
Grab a rock off the ground, drop it into the pocket of the sling, and
okay.
Give this man the love. That is a 30 over 25.
Okay.
Close but no cigars.
You fire the sling. It goes wide. Jake.
I will attempt to run him through with the spear. And that is 44 under 45.
Oh, okay. So he is going to attempt to, because he doesn't want to get stuck by your spear, he is going to dodge. Or attempt to and fail miserably.
Huzzah.
Yeah, that's not good. Okay, so now you need to roll hit location.
Oh, right.
And you have hit location dice, right?
I do.
Okay, so you can either roll the big one or you can roll a d20, up to you.
Right arm.
Okay, now you will need to roll damage.
I can use my add my strength modifier, right?
If you have a damage bonus, you should add it, yes.
Okay. So that'd be 14.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm sorry, 16, because I got +2.
Right arm, right?
Yep.
Okay. You step back and set the spear, and then move through with a well-trained strike. So, you did 15 damage. He has no armor at that arm position. So he takes double the HP that he has at that spot, which means you kill the brute outright.
Ooh.
That does leave the one who is fighting Fin. And Fin, it is going to swing down with a club on you and miss wildly. Big whiff of air comes over as this creature bays at you with this destructive look in its 3 eyes.
All right. Well, Finn will roll away from it back away from it quickly.
Mm-hmm.
While he's doing it, we'll grab another one so that he is not quite point blank, but has enough room to swing the sling and hit this guy fairly point blank.
Okay.
That is a 23 under 25.
Oh, okay. This brew will attempt to dodge. And no.
So, first, I get to roll the chunk. The chunk of chunks.
Yes, do it. The hit location die. That's why you're here.
That is an abdomen.
Okay.
I did get a 7, though.
Okay. So you whip a rock and you ring it off the center of this linen-covered, hide-wearing goat boy. And that will come around then to Vargast. But I have some bad news for you, Vargast.
Yeah.
And that is when you finish off your brew and you pull the spear from its now dying body, you don't see Finn at all. And so we'll go directly back to the brew that was trying to pillage Finn. And he's going to close distance with you and attempt to crush your skull.
I don't want to be pillaged. Thank you.
Okay. You do not have to make a dodge roll.
Okay.
Because he did not hit you.
Oh, very good.
You can choose continue to fight with your sling.
I would like to, yes. Backing up again just to get a little more room.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a 96 over 25, so not so much.
Okay, so that could be problematic. So you do not fumble, luckily, but your rock goes way wide. Nope. Another club strike goes wide. That will only happen, I'm sure, so many times. So, James, you get swung on again.
Finn is at this point absolutely just beside himself with terror because he is not a physical person, nor has he been in very many fights in the village.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly just, pegs rabbits with the sling to take home to dinner. So this is different. Are there any branches or old weaponry or anything on the ground that he can grab?
Certainly. I'm going to say there's probably an old broadsword laying around.
Fantastic. He's going to just half wrap the sling behind his neck like a scarf and just scoop up the broadsword.
Okay.
He's watched Vargast use it a couple of times. He's watched some of the guardsmen in the village go through practices. I think he's got the basics. The pointy end goes into the other man.
Right.
And he is going to attempt to engage this one with sword to cuffs.
So let's see, 1 second.
Okay.
That broadsword's probably going to change your strike rank.
Oh,
It will not be 1 anymore.
No, it'll be my physical strike rank is 2.
Okay.
Or size strike rank is 2.
Right, but then we have to add in the broadsword's strike rank itself, so that's strike rank 2, so you go on now at 4. You still go ahead of the brew, which is good. So you're able to dance through the darkness there, find the sword, and now turn it on this creature.
I turn it on the creature. That is a 4.
Oh, what's your broadsword skill?
25.
I think that might be, let me make a dodge roll from him. Okay, so that's a dodge failure. I believe a 4 is a special attack. Any cutting weapon has a chance to do slashing damage. A slash takes place if the attack roll is a success. So this does slashing damage. Slashing weapons damage should be rolled normally twice, and both results added together. So the broadsword you have in hand does 2d8 plus 8, not the normal 1d8 plus 8. But first, roll hit location.
Head.
Ooh, that's not good.
11 damage.
So you reach down and you find this broadsword laying amongst the darkness and dirt that makes up this plane of existence. And when you recover it, you turn and with a quick whip, swing as hard as you can in an arc, and the goat head of this brew pops off. Its three-eyed face tumbles into the darkness.
Vargast? The head has stopped bouncing and rolling and the body falls over.
There are definitely differences now that the fighting is over. It feels like you've been fighting with others in the midst of this massive battle. The darkness begins to slowly dissipate around you. It evaporates like morning mist. There are an immense amount of bodies laying here. Dead warriors, combatants lying in this dust. The survivors around you are trolls, Ladromni, and Mostali. The humans you see are not just Hortlings. There are fair-haired, blue-eyed Pelorians from the north. Animal nomads from Prax. Robed and bearded strangers bearing the law rune. Black-haired and bronze-skinned warriors with almond-shaped eyes and curved swords. The variety alone is bewildering. And you feel it in your chest, both of you. A wave of exhilaration begins. The crowd, the survivors, cheer. And so now I'll ask, would you like to continue?
I'm up for it.
Oh, yeah.
You depart the battlefield. You continue walking onwards toward the edge of the world. It's easy to tell because a swirling darkness hangs on the horizon. The temperature plummets. And as you continue to go, the high mountains bring that cold as they do in dark season. Your teeth chatter. Your limbs shake. At one point, Finn, the water in your water skin freezes. Despite all this cold, you feel hot, feverish. Light dims again. There's this wet, sucking sound with each step you take. Your boots are coated in a mud, some sort of muck that you walk through now. The wetness seeps inside and sticks to your skin. In the pale light available, you realize this muck isn't mud, but clotted blood. Something on the horizon manifests. For you, Vargast, it is a massive brew, covered with weeping sores and chaotic features. It appears taller than your father's house. 5 arms, each muscular, and some deep sickness within the multi-headed being. The image you feel and see, Finn, is of a scorpion man. An elongated torso of a man who once walked, but now whose lower half is that of something sinister, multi-legged, and where his ass would be, a long, muscular pincer and barbed tail.
Finn does his best not to take the involuntary step back that he so desperately wants to.
You feel it. Each of you. A manifestation of chaos, a deep deep darkness. These creatures begin to shift and change shape. They grow larger. They crawl into your mind. Even when your eyes shut, you cannot break your mind from showing the image to you. It feels as if something darker exists. The shape in your mind changes. It becomes this ruddy, glowing, baleful red moon. It grows larger and larger, and in its glow, madness arrives for you. And so I am going to have you make a POW times 5 roll for me.
8.
Under 65.
2 under 45.
Some time passes. The face of this moon changes for each one of you. When you wake, you feel a warm hearth fire. Something is different. Something has changed. The plane of darkness has shed away. You stand now at the base of an immense and craggy hill. It rises from a fertile plain of cultivated fields. You see acres of barley and oats and apple orchards. Vast herds of cattle are here, grazing on the hills. Overhead, the sky is gray and cloudy. Strong gusts of wind blow across these fields. You also see Aventar, an Ophid, and Darestan. At the base of the hill, the trail you're on passes underneath a high wooden gate. On it, there is a dragon skull mounted at the top of the gate. The posts are carved here with runes. A man waits for you there. You see his build, very similar to Vargast's. His hair is heavy, braided, his beard is black. It feels like coming home. Perhaps this is just a stead you have not yet visited. I am Jarkostas, son of Hort. I have been sent to welcome you, my sons, to the Hall of Orlanth. Now, when he introduced himself as Jarkostas, you know exactly who he is. He's the founder of the Haraborn clan. So clearly, the visions are not yet done. You will never remember this. But for the moment, I will share this vision with you. There is music and feasting and dancing inside Orlanth's hall. There is the recitation of so many different heroic accounts. Succulent pork, the best bread, finest mead. You drink so much mead, your eyes grow heavy. But if it is a dream, it is one of the finest, regaled with the finest of stories. Unfortunately, for mortals like you, you wake, hungover, and sore. Even if the party did last for days, this one has to come to a close. In this hall where you wake, a hall you know very well, Vargast, as the Black Stag Clang Hall in the village. How Fin got here, you have no idea. But he was with you drinking for the past few days, so it makes sense. You are greeted by your father, your uncle, and other men in the inner ring. Your father very clearly says to the both of you, childhood is behind you. You are to be accepted as Haraborn adults just as we were. You need not speak of what happened to you, or you may, and may those tales be a light for others, as Hort would will it. And that is where I'm going to call this rite of passage to a close. So I want to thank Jake for playing Vargast and James for playing Fin. I hope you enjoyed their initiation rites into manhood. Thank you, and good night.